guys, it's Garcia, and today I'm going to be doing the mid-year book freakout tag. So this tag is one that I love doing every year. I say that as if I've been on BookTube forever. I've only been on BookTube for 1 year, so I've only done it once before, but I absolutely love doing this tag, and I love watching other people do this tag. So every June, this is one that I definitely look forward to, so I'm really excited to get to it. And part of the reason I think is just, they're fun questions. They're kind of like end of the year questions, but it's smack dab in the middle of the year, so we can kind of oversee the first, like 6 or so months of the year. So without further ado, let's get to the questions. So question number 1 is the best book that you've read so far. And for that, I'm gonna be going with A Little Hatred by Abercrombie. This is the first book in the Age of Madness series, which is the second series or second trilogy in the First Law series, which this is I think the 9th book in the First Law series, which is great. 9th, it might be 8th. I think it's the 8th book in the First Law series. I absolutely loved it. I love the new characters that we get into this series. I love that we get the old characters and we can kind of see where their lives went and things that happened. I love that the new characters, while they're still very unique and interesting, I think they're also a little bit more relatable than some of the old characters were. And I really, really love some of the reveals that happen in this book. It was fantastic. I absolutely loved it. And I can't wait because the second book in this trilogy is coming out later this year, and I'm so excited for it. So the second question in this tag is the best sequel that you've read so far this year, and that has got to be Words of Radiance by Sanderson. You guys knew I was gonna have a ton of high fantasy on this video, but this is a fantastic book. I absolutely loved it. For those of you who don't know, this is the second book in the Stormlight Archives by Sanderson, and it is so good. This so far is my favorite book in the series. Mind you, I've only read 2 books in this series so far, so there's not that much to compare to, but it's fantastic. I love these characters. I love this world. I love the politics and some of the things that happen in this book, especially towards the end. There are a ton of great things that happen towards the end of this book. I love everything about it. So yeah, I absolutely love Words of Radiance. Such a good follow-up to The Way of Kings. So the next question on this list is a new release that you haven't read yet, but want to. And for that, I'm gonna go with The Girl in the Stars by Mark Lawrence. So this is one that I haven't gotten to yet, and I think part of it is just I've had a lot of stuff going on in my life recently, and I just haven't gotten to this one. I haven't bought this book. I plan on buying it eventually, but I'm currently in the middle of one of Mark Lawrence's other series, which is why I haven't picked up this one yet. It just kind of feels weird to be in the middle of 2 series by the same author when I'm in the middle of so many other series already that it just didn't seem I don't know, fair to the other authors or whatever. So I think this is one that while I do really want to read and will eventually, I want to read some of his other books first before I get to it, but I am really excited for it because it's set in the same world as the Book of the Ancestor series, and I absolutely love that one. So I'm definitely excited to continue on in that world. So the next question is the most anticipated release for the second half of the year, and I actually did an entire video on my most anticipated releases for the second half of the year because I got a lot of them. I will link it up in the cards if you guys want to check that out, but I think for the one that I'm probably anticipating the most, there are kind of 3, because I did mention A Little Hatred, the next book in that series, is coming out this year, and in Stormlight Archives, the next book in that series is also coming out this year, but I'm gonna go with a different series, and I'm gonna go with The Burning God by R.F. Kuang. I'm so excited about this book. One, because it's a finale, and I am a sucker for a good finale, and the first 2 books in this series have both just knocked it out of the water for me. The first book, I didn't know what to expect going into the popular. It's an Asian-inspired grimdark fantasy that gets really gritty and raw with a kick-ass main character. I absolutely love Rin. She's ruthless to herself and pretty much everyone around her, but I love that about her. And in the Dragon Republic, it was just non-stop from beginning to end, and I absolutely loved it. So I cannot wait for the finale of the series, which is coming out in November. So the next question on this list is your biggest disappointment, and I almost don't want to talk about it because I feel like I've talked about it a lot now on my channel as a disappointment. My answer to this is Gods of Jade and Shadow by Silvia Moreno Garcia. I'm not gonna get super into it other than the fact that I really, really love the idea of this book because it's an adult fantasy incorporating Mayan mythology, which I really love the idea of, but I just didn't care for the execution of it that much. I still think it's a good book, it just wasn't for me. So the next question on this list is Biggest Surprise, and for me, that's gotta be Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. Like, this is one of the books that you guys voted for me to read, which I was really surprised by because it's a romantic contemporary, and my subscribers are generally lean a little bit more towards fantasy, so this really surprised me when I saw this book as the poll winner for, I think it was February, which kind of makes sense. But oh my gosh, this book is so good. I absolutely loved it. It had me laughing out loud multiple times while I was reading this book. It's such a fun book, but at the same time, it's also deeply political, and I really loved it. For those of you who don't know, this book is about the first son of the United States who falls in love with his arch nemesis, the Prince of Wales. So of course, shenanigans ensue, and it was fantastic, and I absolutely loved it. And I didn't expect to love it half as much as I did. So the next question is favorite new author, debut, or new to you. So I'm actually gonna choose one for each. So first of all, for debut, I'm gonna choose Evan Winter and The Rage of Dragons. So I read The Rage of Dragons earlier this year. I didn't have very high expectations for it. It was just something that some of my subscribers thought that I would like, and I absolutely loved it. It was such a fun, fast-paced, African-inspired fantasy book, and I really loved it. It definitely had gladiator type of vibes from it, and I really liked like the way it was just set up in an interesting way with the character building, and I'm really excited because the next book in that series is coming out this year as well, and I'm definitely going to be picking it up. And then for a new to me author, I'm going to have to go with Ta-Nehisi and Between the World and Me. I also read another book by him, The Water Dancer, which I also really, really loved. But for this one, I'm gonna go with Between the World and Me because this is actually a nonfiction that I wasn't expecting. It's a nonfiction of the author writing a letter to his son about being a Black man in America, which I feel like is very poignant at this time in American history as well. So this is definitely one that I would highly recommend. I think he did such a great job of describing his feelings on this topic, and it worked really, really well for me. He's definitely a brilliant author that I want to read more of his works. The other book that I read by him, mind you, is The Water Dancer, which is like a historical, sort of semi-realism fantasy almost book, which was also fantastic and had to do a lot with the Underground Railroad and the slave trade, which I thought was a very interesting perspective as well. So I really loved both of the books that I read by him, and I'm really excited to see more from this author. So the next question is newest fictional crush, which this one was really hard for me because I don't really get fictional crushes, but I decided to go with Cain from Heroes Die. So in this book, there's this other world in which we have characters who act in that world, and they have characters that they act out, and while they're acting in that world, their entire lives in that world is kind of like reality TV is recorded so that people can re-experience it back at home. Well, Harry McQuiston is our main character, but when he's in this other world, he's acting the character of Cain, who is kind of like this killer in this like high fantasy sort of story, and like he's a total bad guy and does terrible things, but at the same time he has emotions and he's a good person at heart, even though like the only person he actually cares for is his wife. So like, it's great. I absolutely love it. Definitely swoon worthy. So the next question is newest favorite character, and for this, we're going back to a little hatred because I gotta talk about Sabine Danglakta. Oh my gosh, do I have to say more? The name alone should tell you how much I love this character, because my previous favorite character of all time is her father, San Danglakta, who is amazing, and Sabine is just as amazing. I find her a little bit more relatable, but at the same time, she is like semi-unlikable, morally gray, but at the same time, I love her. Like, I love everything that she does. I love everything that she stands for. I love everything about her and some of the choices that she makes, especially towards the end. I can't wait for the next book in this series to see what she does because she's amazing, and I'm just speechless. Like, I absolutely love this character, and I cannot wait to see more from her. The next question is a book that made you cry, and for that I'm gonna have to go with The Willful Princess and the Piebald Prince by Robin Hobb. This book is a tiny short novella, like it's 200 pages. It consists of 2 short stories, and if you've read the Realm of the Elderling series, then you know the Piebald Prince is a story within the Tiny Man trilogy that actually influences a lot of like the political side of what happens in the Tiny Man trilogy. And oh my gosh, in this book, Robin Hobb is so hard on her characters. Like, I was just blown away with how devastating this book is. It is such a short book, but it's completely gut-wrenching and heartbreaking, and I loved every second of it. Especially the second short story, The Piebald Prince. That one had me tearing up the entire time, and just when you think it can't get worse, it somehow gets worse. So yeah, I absolutely loved it. So the next question is a book that made you happy, and for that I'm gonna go with Network Effect by Martha Wells. I'm actually currently reading this book, but it has me laughing out loud all the time. This is the 5th book in the Murderbot Diaries, and it's the first like full-length novel, and it's fantastic. I absolutely love artificial intelligences, and Sec Unit is amazing. I just love it when it gets emotional. Like, it's the best part of it, especially when there are multiple artificial intelligences getting emotional over their relationship with each other, because they can understand how to have a relationship with humans but not with each other, and it's great, and I love every second of it. So the next question on this list is the most beautiful book that you bought this year, and for that I'm gonna go with The 10,000 Doors of January by Alix Harrow. This book is so gorgeous, and not gonna lie, it was kind of a cover buy for me. I did want to read this book because it's a portal fantasy and it's very enchanting, has beautiful descriptions, and I love the character and her story, but I might not have bought the actual physical hardcover if it wasn't so beautiful. Like, it's gorgeous. I did love reading this book also. I don't remember exactly what my rating was. I think it was like 4.5 stars, but it's fantastic. And I love having this book on my shelf. So the last question on here is, what book do you need to read by the end of the year? And there are a lot of them. There are tons of books that I absolutely need to read, but the one that I'm gonna go with for this prompt is Tigana by Guy Gavriel Kay. I actually started this one already, like I read the first chapter or so, and it's fantastic so far, but this is a book that's been recommended to me like over and over again by multiple people, and it's also a book that I've been meaning to pick up for the longest while. So from what I've heard, Guy Gavriel Kay has the most beautiful writing. This book is kind of like a low historical fantasy, but like with a deeply political plot and complex themes that is just like right up my alley, and is exactly the type of book that I'm always looking for. So I'm really excited to dive deeper into this book, and I definitely have to finish it before the end of this year. Okay, so that's all I have for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. Please let me know down in the comments if you've read any of these books, and also some of your answers to these questions. I post videos every Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, so consider subscribing. I also post bonus videos, so if you want to be notified as soon as I upload, you can click that little bell icon. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up to support my channel. All social media links are in the description down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!